everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another day of awesome FileMaker training at fmtraining.tv. I'm the creator of fmtraining.tv, and I am getting all set here so I can see your comments. We are broadcasting in high definition on, and that's what I'm looking at over here, on Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, and so that's very exciting for everyone here. Let me see. I'm about the right altitude here, so let me hit the button real quick. We'll talk about the upcoming schedule. So there's some important I started mentioning this, but Margaret's supposed to be working on it. So let me hit the button over here. So today is demo day. Tomorrow is kind of more of a less about FileMaker 23. It's more about, and I kind of hinted this, we talk about this for those of you wondering about this, but how to convince or deal with people who don't know who Claris is. I don't know who Claris is, and why should I trust him with my money, right? That kind of thing. And so then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week, Jacob Taylor will be doing a FileMaker install. Looks like Monday is going to be Windows with FileMaker 23. We're going to be using Amazon for this. If you have your own cooked up, hacked version, one of you, who I'm not going to repeat their name, who should know better, came up with like 12 permutations. If I put it on this unauthorized software with this unauthorized operating system with this and this and this, will it work? We're like, I don't know, right? So it's always a thing. If you try to install on something that's not supported, will it work? We've actually, on times, can sometimes get around limitations, but you know, like it doesn't support like Windows 10 Pro or something. You're using Home or something like that. Can you put FileMaker Server on Windows, not the server version of the operating system? Well, if you hack it enough and beat it on enough, and you have enough hours a day, you can make it work. But like I said, your mileage may vary, and you're definitely you're out in the deep end of the pool with no help. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, Jacob Taylor will be killing it with the FileMaker Server 23 install. So today is demo day. Once again, tomorrow's talking about customers, and then next week we're back on the schedule. It was supposed to be Nick next week, but Jacob's doing something that's actually also in high demand, so that's fine. What we got, the execute data API with Leland Long. Leland Long is a fantastic trainer. He's actually better than me by quite a bit. He is phenomenal. He's very patient and very slow. By the way, I want to thank everyone. While Claris was here, you were well behaved. Thank you for doing that, not causing too many problems. So let's talk about the latest with FileMaker 23. So we've been talking about it. If you have open questions, let me know. But we're going to dive into one of the features, a couple of the features today. And then Jacob hopefully will join us with Calvin later in the broadcast and maybe talk about some more features. But some of the features you assume are very simple, and they kind of are. And you read the documentation, they're really simple. And then you realize there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not documented. And so I was about to ask Claris if the documentation people at Claris had been terminated. He swears they're still there. So somewhere between engineering building stuff and the documentation people writing it, there's a pretty big breakdown in communications. I'm about to demonstrate that for you. So real quick, what we do have running today, I'm going to pop this open because so what we got going is we got a FileMaker server. Let me get myself out of the way here. I'm actually going to pop my dock back up. I hate that, but I need it over here. I'm going to pop up. This is FileMaker server. And Margaret, you're in charge of doing whatever you do.
We got a lot of people here today, and some Claris people hanging out in chat.
Oh, yeah, we're in big trouble then when they find out what I have to say. Yeah. So anyway, so this is Claris FileMaker server. This is the current version that went out the door. We have a database that's logged in here. There are a number of like high-end features, some OAuth, things like that. I'm not going to try to dig into that. I'm going to be demonstrating kind of the more common things that we were interested in seeing, looking at the documentation, and then me trying to explain all the things it does that's not in the documentation. So first off, pretty basic so far. I have a FileMaker file that's running here. This is FM Starting Point Lite. This is the callback demo that I wanted to fire up because it's kind of neat, it's kind of fun, and I can see most of you using and playing with that. So what I'm going to do is, for the moment, I'm just going to probably minimize this, or just maybe, yeah, I'll try to hide it for the moment. It'll be down there. I'm in FileMaker Pro. I actually put the number on it because in my copies of FileMaker on this computer, I've got 19.4, 19.5, 19.6, and then technically 20.1. Anyone who would prefer to see the version number match the marketing name, please feel free to send an email to someone at Claris, not me, because I have no juice on this. I think that it's just automatic a confusion moment. I mean, I love the idea that it's a year. I think a big release number is great. I just think that people are going to go, what's 5 of you are just about to ask me the question, what's FileMaker 20 and how come they haven't heard about it? I'm like, I'm not looking forward to that conversation. So here it is right here. I'm going to open up this file. It's running on FileMaker 23 server. Okay, pop it open, ding, 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 it pops open. So what I want to do is pretty straightforward. This is our free CRM. And let me set up the situation. So we have this script called perform script on server. So it's where we take the scripting engine that you see over here. This is basic stuff. Some of you are really advanced developers. Will be like, hey, this is way over, I can teach this. I'm so great. That's fine. This is for, at the moment, more basic to intermediate people. We have a script called perform script on server. So I think it's over here. Actually, I almost never go over here and look anymore. I just type it in and it auto-populates. It's right here. So perform script. We had perform a script on your client. Now, then we had a perform script on the server, which means that the server will run the script for you. Then we have a perform script on the server with a callback, which means that when it's done firing, it's going to call back a script specifically to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over here to this script right here. This is my initiation script right here. It's going to, I have a comment. I commented out the old method of running it. And so I have this command called perform script on server. It's kind of big and fat. I'm using monkey bread to make the text bigger. But what's important on this, and it's super, super important, is that you're going to specify a script for the server, the PSOS to run, right, with a parameter. And then you're going to specify a callback to run with a parameter. Now, real quick, just for entertainment value, let's go over to FileMaker Help. We'll go to FileMaker Pro Help. And Margaret, if you have questions and things like that, what if the script, okay, Schmiegel's just jumping ahead. Schmiegel, go get a beer, take a smoke, come back in 10 minutes, okay? You're jumping ahead on the presentation. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is go to new features over here. You can see if you go to FileMaker Pro release notes, it's updates. Margaret's gonna post this link for you, but these are all kind of the new things that are in here. Down here, we have a new script step called perform script on server, right? FileMaker Pro, new function, scripts, perform script with callback, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in actually into help. I'm gonna say, I'm spacing, I'm in FileMaker. Oh, it jumps me to Safari, that's my problem. I got help, FileMaker Pro help. I'm gonna come to a search up here. You have to actually type it in fairly accurately. Perform script on server. Let's just try that one and see if it comes back with a hit. Ding, ding, ding. All right, so there is the existing. We have beat this topic to death on the show. Nick uses this all the time. Here's the new one right here. So this is the documentation for it. That's it. I can assure you that's maybe half the documentation. My team found out about this. We're like, hey, wait a minute. I wanted to talk to Claris, but since I'm being monitored by certain officials at certain companies, we're going to behave ourselves. I simply tell you that this documentation is not complete. So what it's going to do, it's going to say, this only works if you have the files on server and you have a compatible version of server. And the idea is that you're going to tell it to run a script, and then when that script exits on, this is the client right here, then it's going to run this on the server, and then the server, when it's done, sends a text result, which is the script result back. Okay, the script result back, so the client can get the message after the server has done something with it, right? So it makes sense that every time we call a script forward, we can pass a parameter. When the script ends and kind of backs out to itself, it passes the result. In this case, with this thing on the end, it does both. So I've got a diagram here. We threw this diagram together. It'll be made much more pretty for the paid training. But let me walk through this with you. So everyone understands the concept here. So what I'm going to do is before I dig into the weeds of this, I'm going to just run the demo here real quick. Close this. So I'm going to go to preferences over here. go to developer, and we have this mock data generator. So one of the things that Starting Point does is that well, we did this because we wanted to build a really big file to try to overload FileMaker Server. In fact, we're going to have another Melt the FileMaker Server party here where everyone logs in. We haven't done this in like 3 or 4 years because it takes hundreds of clients to log in and break the server. And so what we do is this auto populates and creates data for us. So it runs a loop, uses a bunch of random commands, and it randomly creates these records for us. So what I've done is I set some basic settings in. This will take 10, 15 seconds to run, but it's going to run in PSOS with a callback. So when I run this, I tell it to go. Now it's running on the server. Just take my word for it. It's running on the server. I can go. I can do something else. I can be over doing things. And then suddenly out of the blue, as we're doing things, a script calls, a script is activated on our client. It's up to you, and this is getting the Schmiegel part. And Margaret, feel free to engage here with questions because we have all these scripts are going to have questions. The script that's being activated, you have to be a good steward of your customers. You can't just have it beep, 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 and big red flashy lights and stuff. It's up to you to write a non-invasive script, or maybe you want an invasive script. The other day I was doing a test. In fact, I'll do it for us right now. I was actually in here making some edits. I was like typing like Ryan, and then we like go in here and we start typing like meh, can't, and then we'd run the script. And if the script doesn't interfere, you're left here still editing the record, right? So it kind of can update a variable. I would always think of like updating a variable that's not going to commit a record or do something like that. And then if you have a little indicator on screen, you could have it update that. In the case of the way this thing works is it pops a card style window, and it actually checks to see if there's an error, because if you already have a card style window, you can't pop a second one behind it. That's like double secret probation from Animal House. There's no such thing. So you can't have double card style windows. So it detects that there's an error and it throws a standard window, but it works as you would expect. It's actually pretty straightforward here. Margaret, questions? Nope. Yep.
Not
nope. We're
really.
good. Okay. So the way I would do it, a lot of times if I do something, I'll have like a little checkbox or indicator pop up, something innocuous that alerts you that it completed or did something or whatever. You don't have to use it this way. You could still use perform script on server without the callback, right? That's not gone anywhere. This is just another tool in your tool set. Now, here's the deal with this thing. So you saw the documentation was like, you run it, it sends back a result, you're done. That is not complete. So let me draw some pictures for you. Everyone ready for pictures? I'm getting out my pictures and my crayons. Here we go. So let's just pretend that this is David Angel. David Angel. He's going to call a script. So when you call a script, when you make that perform script on server, you specify 2 scripts to run. You specify the PSOS, the script that you want the server to run, right? That's the top one. You pass a parameter. You also designate the script to call on the client, and you pass another parameter. So it's 2 scripts, 2 parameters. And you're like, right? No, right? It says like, it's a double secret probation, right? It's fired. So, so then what happens? Next step is what happens is that it's going to drop the one's just like a pass through, right? Is the idea. This idea is that once this finishes, it's going to just kind of send this back to us. This is the one that it calls on the client. And because you passed it a script parameter right here, that script parameter is going to make it all the way around. Right? So meanwhile, the FileMaker server runs the top one, and once it's done, when it exits, you can say exit script, pass a script result. So then what happens is the third one right here, and I had to wrap my head around this. It passes back, it calls your script, but it passes back to you a script parameter and a script result. The script result is the message from the server. The script parameter is the original parameter you set to yourself. It's like we always talk about PSOS or calling a script, especially with PSOS. to pass it sort of any sort of useful information, you have to put in the parameter. The idea, the metaphor I use is like throwing a football down the field. You want to invite the wide receiver to your party, and he's way 70 yards down the field. So you put a Post-it note, you write on a Post-it note, tape it on the football, throw that thing down the football field. He catches the ball, reads the note. Well, with this PSOS, it's like throwing the ball to him, 2 balls to him, and then he throws one back with 2 Post-it notes on there. 2 Post-it notes. So you can send yourself your own message, 1, and 2, you can get the script result from the server so it can tell you its own thoughts about things, right? So
we do have a question. Could this be used to close or notify the user of opened but abandoned windows? By this, I mean triggering a script on the client.
Here's the deal. Claris, one of the things that Claris is doing right now, and I'm not picking on them in any way, they're going back and finding the things that the developers have been asking for a long time, like please put sorting on the server and some other things on the server and things like that. Doing some really great things, transactions, right? A basic audit log, that kind of deal. And I don't even know we're going to get that far today with this conversation. That being said, the idea of the server calling a script on a client that's logged in is kind of the universal request here. I think this is what they did, and I have no inside information on this, but if they can call a script on your client, they can call a script on any client. And it would be really great if this continued to live forward and expand, so you could call a script on any client if the server thought it needed your attention for some reason. So from Twitch, Media PC says, could this be used to close or notify the user of open but abandoned windows? By this mean triggering a script on a client that does something. Right now, the person that's getting this callback down here is only the person who initiated it in the first place. And meanwhile, the script up here is running on the server, burning processing and threads and thoughtfulness, right? You can put a pause on it with a time, but if you put a pause with an indefinite on it, it will error and bail out. In fact, we're going to look at that momentarily here. But I think the product clearly will support the idea that if you're an administrator and you give instructions to the server, run a script and send an email to anyone who's whatever, doing something or they need to update something, I think the product can do that. The question is whether Claris Engineering will give us that. But I knew when I saw this that I wouldn't even get through explaining it before someone asked, hey, can we use this and send messages to other clients? We kind of prototyped this. This was done by European outfit. I'm spacing on their name. It was Simple something or whatever they were called. And they made a demo. It was called PSOC. Perform script, essentially, or 360 Works also did this too, called Perform Script on Client. So you're, instead of PSOS, Perform Script on Server, Perform Script on a targeted client, PSOC with a C. That's where this naturally leads to. It's probably already in the product. I don't think they'd have to break anything. And of course, the response historically from Claris would be like, whoa, we don't know if we want, I remember the conversation about script triggers because Rick Kalman was right in the middle of that. And they Claris management kept saying, whoa, we don't know if we trust users to have this kind of power because they might like do something, get into a loop and can't get out. Well, with great power comes responsibilities. We want the platform to be powerful. And if the users are dumb enough to blow themselves, or the developers are dumb enough to blow themselves up, well, they will do that. You will learn, right? I've written infinite loops that were going in a circle, and I had to force quit the app because it was running on a server. I didn't lose anything, and nothing was damaged. But you know, this is one of those deals where you could probably go into a loop sending people messages. Your customer, I mean, listen, if you're a bad enough developer, you're going to get fired from your job, right? So there's some sort of self-concept of self-preservation to be a good developer, and at least not do excessively stupid things. So yeah, this would, I see that was the first question I got, and I told Rick it was coming, and he's like, yeah, probably. Okay. ClickWorks. Brutterman the cat says ClickWorks was a company that had the demo. It was fantastic. This is like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Really great.
Okay, we got one from YouTube. What is the context for the return script? I.e., if you've moved to a different layout after you've called the new PSOS with callback,
No, it's
does the
no
return
context.
script use the current or layout or the original? So
It's gonna, okay, so the context, you have no control over the context. You don't know where the person's at. They might not even be running. They might have started it and logged off or crashed. So the context, so when the server calls back to the client, you have to make the same level of assumptions as when the client called the server. You're going to tell the script to run, you're going to pass some parameters, and then you're going to hope for the best. That's how that works. But like I said in my demo right here, so let me take a look at the script, what I wrote right here. So this is a script that's, which one? Oh, not that one. So what I have is these data generation scripts. So the data generation script is actually this one right here. It's a big, long script that creates a bunch of records. This script right here starts it on PSOS or on perform script on server. And this right here is the callback one. So this is the callback. So this is the initiate, this is the callback. So when we initiate it, we're going to tell it to, we're going to say, run script 3000 on the server. And I say, hello, server, this is the client. That's the parameter I pass, okay? And then on the same command, the bottom one says callback script. I'm going to tell the server to call the script on the client, 3001A, which is this one. And then I say, hello, client, you know, this is the message from the client, right? So I pass both of these, right? And so what happens is if we run this, you'll see me run this. Let's watch we run this. I'm going to save all, go back here. So we start it from over here, and then we can navigate anywhere. So we don't, the point is you don't control the context, the landing context, you don't control it, but it's not new. This is something we've already learned originally with PSOS. This is on the certification test like 5 times, is what is the context if you do this? You have no idea. Context is everything in FileMaker, right? It's a huge learning curve for new developers to understand that there is a context. You have to pay attention to it. What is your layout, found set, sort state, what record you're on, if you're editing a field, where you at, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say mock data generator. I'm just going to tell it to initiate. Now it's running. Now it's running. We assume it's running, but then you wouldn't really know because you can't see it running. And then if you're over here doing something, typing. Now it interrupted me and it started the script. And so what I did is this is a script result right here. See the get script result. So this is the results from the server that is directly passing back to the client, and it's passing back what it did. It created one staff record. It's kind of a little bit of a telemetry. I could parse this out and create a nice list. And then this is the original message I sent to myself. Hello, client. It's like talking to yourself. I do this all the time. People think I've lost my mind, especially the people at Claris, right? So Richard's lost his mind. So yes, this is not in the documentation. So you can call and you can talk to yourself with this command, okay? It's very powerful. It's not in the docs. It doesn't exist. Now, if I click out of this, I'm still editing in here because my script, if we look at that script, if I go to script workspace command, I'm going to do the keyboard shortcut. Here it is. When I run the callback script, it sets a variable, sets a variable, sets a variable. Remember, setting a variable are all non-invasive, generally speaking. It won't trip over anything you're doing. It won't upset your context. Now, if you can overwrite a global variable that maybe you're already using, so be thoughtful about that. Then I pop a new window. That is one of the tricks of preserving context in the FileMaker platform, is that you're doing stuff on a window and they're due to data entry, and then someone says, oh, I got a call, right? I got a call. I had a customer did this. I'll never forget this. And every time they get a call, they wouldn't want to stop what they're doing. So we put a button at the top of their screens. They would spawn a new window and they could make a note about the call and do this sort of thing. And then they could close that window and go back to where they were, so they didn't have to disrupt their context. So spawning a new window is pretty safe, generally speaking. Pretty safe, generally speaking, right? Then my one customer, of course, got 50 calls one day. They had a new product launch. Then couldn't figure out why Windows was so slow on his computer. He had 50 FileMaker windows all doing stuff. So there is a limit to good things. All right, questions. We got Brutterman, Dave. We got a whole bunch of people. Hansa's here, right? So Hansa, yes, you'll like the fact that I'm the emergency documentation department for Claris. Yeah, so this is actually the full meal deal, right? Oop, hang on, I just messed it up. Okay, I really messed it up. There we go. So you're passing both with a parameter. Then over here you can pass the first one comes back. This one right here comes back unaltered. It's just going to pass it straight back through to you, and then it can glue on the result if you want, right? And that's your message from the server, right? Yes.
This makes sense only if you run few scripts at the same time.
Yeah, if you basically, it's not going to interrupt the script. It'll sequence, I'm pretty sure, after whatever current script is done running. So once again, popping a window and being innocuous about it. But yeah, you got to be careful with this, right? And it's the same reason like notice day one, Claris didn't say, hey, you can, have 100 users and you could be sending triggers to all the machines. They didn't turn that on. They could, I hope they do, but we have to learn to play nice, right, with this. And so once again, it's an option. In most of my scenarios, I actually set a value in a flags table from the server. The server updates a value, and my client then gets that update, not directly from the server. It eventually gets a record update I have a preference record or a single messages record, and I populate that data. So then my client, when it gets the record refresh, it gets that notification. So we figured out a way to get around this, but this is a more direct method. It's more immediate. Keep in mind that with PSOS right now, when you call a script, you can, what we call fire and forget, it's asynchronous. You could fire it and then walk off, and you never know unless you're looking for a message somewhere, like a little flag to be set, right? Or you actually run the script and you wait. So this allows you to run it, but have more immediacy on the response. But you could be in a bad spot, right? You could be in the middle of some critical process and you run a script. And you just need to be thoughtful about where you'd run this. You wouldn't want to do this generically everywhere. You'd want to apply this in a targeted fashion, if that makes sense. Because notice it didn't disrupt. In my scenario right here, I was editing records and making a bunch of data entry, and it didn't force a commit, but that's only because I didn't write that into the script. I said, pop a new window, do some stuff, so it would leave this window over here unaffected. Very cool.
Hansa, I am just trying it. My callback is not being called. Curious if it can have a problem that I have FileMaker Pro on the same machine as FMS as it keeps disconnecting me.
You got the 23 server too, Hansa? Yeah. I'm assuming. I don't know. I am the guy that doesn't normally run server and client on the same machine, because once upon a time, like 30 years ago, that would cause bad things to happen. And so once you're been caught on fire, burning in front of a customer, you tend to avoid situations like that. So, yeah. So once upon a time, I tried that and it blew me up. And then I decided that I didn't want to look stupid in front of customers. So I try not to do that. David says is like no wait for a response, and we'll send it when it's over. We perform another script, come back client side. It'd be fun to call a script on another user. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. Someone's going to cook up some jury-rigged hack. It's like the transaction. The transaction capability in 19.6 is designed for scripts to be transactional, not users to be transactional, like data processing. Of course, a couple really smart people wired up demos, but they're real hacks. I'm sure you could wire up a giant hack where as everyone logs into the FileMaker server, it starts a PSOS with a callback, and then and then it like pauses 10 seconds, and every 10 seconds it runs. But then you're opening these open threads on the server. And so if you have 100 users, you have 100 open threads, because each PSOS, I think, is running in a different thread until you run out of threads and they stack up. Yeah, it makes me nervous. So what I would do is hope that I would send a request to Claris saying, hey, it'd be really great if we could fire this on any client. There's no restriction to that. Any restriction they have after they've done this, they're already targeting a user. They've already targeted a user, right? And if it's set up by an admin and only admin with administrative credentials on the file, that person has the ability to burn down the building anyway. So give them the tools. Kyle says FM Pro doesn't work well when trying to use a file that is hosted on the exact same computer. Pretty sure that it's still problematic unless you're using FileMaker server running on a virtual memory. Yeah, so Kyle's had similar issues before.
Hansa, when each user starts a piece off with endless loops that keeps polling for a record, then one user can cause the callback trigger for another user.
Yeah, I mean, leave it to Hansa to figure that out. This is the guy who loves Xcode and lives in it for fun. No, Hansa's fantastic. He's great. This training is not for you, Hansa. Okay, let me help out everyone here real quick with the training. So this is a diagram right here. Okay, let me help you out, everyone out. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. No, that was it. Oh, I need to hit the minus sign. There we go. So this is a business owner, brand new developer, people in between here. So I'm trying to help everyone from here through up here, maybe in here. Hansa is over here on the right. Kyle Williams, some of you people way over here on the right. Okay. You should be running the show, not me. Cool. Questions from folks? Oh, all right. So no, I'm being serious. All right. So let's talk about FileMaker Server real quick. So one of the new features in FileMaker Server that goes right along with this is the server is, so when I ran, so check this out. You'll love this. So let's do this. This is going to be fun. I think you'll find high value in this. I ran into this by accident. So my engineer had a script that we normally run the data generation tool on a client. And so then he says, well, I'm going to put it on the server so the server could generate the data and then call us back. So he kind of concocted this arbitrary scenario, right? And so when I was testing it, and I'm like, well, let's watch it run on the script debugger. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm going to have the script debugger come up, and I can make it a little bit smaller, and I'll pop the data viewer. So you're going to find, so this is like a couple demos here, they're going to lead to each other. So these are all the variables that we have in play, global variables. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, go to the developer tab, mock generation table. It's running some sort of script right here. I'm just going to let it play out because I don't care. So now I'm going to say, perform generate records on PSOS with callback. So I'm going to press the button, 1, 2, 3, click. So it's going to call the script on my client. I haven't left yet. It's going to set a variable here because it's doing some elapsed time thing. This is Hansa kind of stuff, elapsed milliseconds. Click down. Here's the callback. It's going to call these two scripts, or call one of them, and then one's the callback. So I'm going to step down, and then it closed the window. And so now we're like, hey, what's going on? It's running on the server. How do you know? Well, unless the server's crashed, it's probably running on the server, right? Okay, so here it goes. The server called and activated. And the first thing you get back is a command is not available. And I'm like, what's command not available? Because all the commands here are available. That is the, I think the error from the server, I think is what it threw back at me. I'm assuming that's the case, and I can support that contention. That being said, it's going to set a couple variables here. So, and I made a note, the script result will be the script parameter constructed by the server, passed through to the callback. Okay, that's the script result. The get script parameter, which would normally never work, will work at the end of the food chain, and it's in it because it was passed through by from the client to the server, then passed all the way round robin back to itself. So there we got that. So it does that. So if we come over here, message from client, and then that is the message from the FMS right here. This is the number of records it created. Pretty straightforward, right? Oops, sorry. Step down. And then it's going to say pop a new window. Now, here's the interesting thing. We thought about this like, hey, if you have a card style, you can't already have a card style. So what it does, it generates a card style and then checks for an error. And if there's an error, and the error for a double card style is error 3, then it pops the window as a document window. So it still works, okay? And then it goes here. And you're like, but you remember, hey, we had that error 3. Why was an error 3? And then clearly there are some script steps that PSOS runs that are not supported on the server, right? So we talk about this idea. You can go into scripts. You can say, show me which, we're all familiar with this, right? Which script steps are supported on server, which are not. Let me just open that for 2 seconds up here. Close that, close this, close that, come over here, Command-Shift-S, come over here. If you want to see the scripts that are available for Pro, generally Mac and Windows is fine. The scripts for server, some of the scripts will be grayed out. They're not available. If the server, if you call these with the server is likely to give you an error 3 under most conditions, right? So insert a PDF. Insert is kind of like this edit function. Insert PDF, insert picture. Those will fail on server. And generally the server keeps going unless you mess with the abort. I don't want to get into that. That's a separate conversation. But we're thinking to ourselves, we called a script, it got an error 3. I don't know what the command was. So how do we see what was the problem on the server? Well, I'm going to close this. Here's the file right here. I'm going to go to my browser. I'm going to go to my FileMaker server. I'm going to log into my administrative console right here. Claris with a new logo, right? There's an argument whether that stands for FileMaker or for P for Pro, but then they're using it on server, so it must be an F, kind of an F, but might be kind of partly a P, because the first time I saw it was with Pro, and I'm like, oh, it's a P. It's an F, I guess. Sign in. So we come in here, and you're like, okay, that's great. There's a database. We still have these errors. Come over to logs, log settings. Margaret, do we have a Jacob or Calvin? Have they surfaced yet?
I don't know.
Zoom, check Zoom, see if they're there. If they're there, make sure they let me know.
No.
So I come over here to log settings, and what I do is I say allow script error log. So this is a new log. This is a new log. These will be the errors that you get from incompatible script steps or some sort of error from PSOS or SASE. So I'm going to enable this, right? And then I'm going to have the log viewer, and I'm going to say I want to select the server event log, and I think this is at 3:35. I think this is actually the script. I think it was logging it, but it wasn't showing it to us. We were playing this, turning this on and off. If I turned it off, then it shouldn't have been running just now, but it was. I don't know. So let me run it one more time. It's 39 minutes after the hour. I think it's on UTC time, I think. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to tell it to run the mock data generator. Go. So now it's running over here. And I probably have to refresh. So I'll let it refresh. There we go. So it finishes running, and we know there were probably an error in here. So we come back over here. We say, I want to see the script event log, right? We got that one. And then I probably do a refresh on that. I just gotta do a refresh. No data display, log error. Okay. At the bottom of the log, yeah. So there it was at 39 and 40 after the hour. So we're calling. Okay, so these are, it makes sense, right? So it started right at 39. So when I ran it, it generated 2 errors, 2 type 3 errors. I tried to call an adjust window, and remember that the PSOS and the SASE are headless on FileMaker server. They are headless. And then on the so the adjust window, there's no window adjust. It's not going to show you anything. And then show custom dialog, same thing. So these are kind of user interface specific things. And so it gives you a command 3. In this case, we let it keep going, it finished, and then exit out. But this is a really great tool for diagnosing and troubleshooting why a script is freaking out on your FileMaker server, right? Pretty cool.
We have 2 questions.
Yep, go.
If you are going to talk about server, can you get into the new Active Directory connecting without ADFS?
No, because I'm not that low. This is the same question from yesterday. Who was this? I think who was asking that question yesterday? Yeah, it might have been Opera Dad. Was that the question from yesterday? So is that connecting the Active Directory through Azure, or is that the on-prem Active Directory? So we generally here's the deal with Active Directory. So Active Directory on-prem RCC doesn't use it, so we don't demo it. All the things that we demo are things that we use. The Active Directory with Azure we were using, but it had some gnarly issues that we kind of abandoned using it. So my understanding is they fixed some of that stuff, and we're interested in using this new server. However, a conversation came up as we were starting the show, actually before we started the music on Discord. Someone said, hey, can I use the new server? And I'm like, I don't know. People say, well, is it stable? Is it reliable? Is it good to go for a Fortune 10 company with billions of dollars? And I'm like, you might want to let it air out a little bit, right? Might want to let it air out a little bit to see if there are any show-stopping bugs with it. I mean, we're going to use it with smaller deployments, smaller customers, but we're going to ease into it slowly. There's about 500 bug fixes in the platform in 23 between Pro and Server. We're already using Pro, so that tool we have a high degree of confidence with. Go should be fine, but the server, in terms of my corporate livelihood, so I get paid and it keeps running RCC and stuff. I'm sure my competitors would prefer I upgrade to it immediately and then, but I'm going to probably wait a month or two on that to see what happens with it on the server side for corporate. But yeah, with Pro, we're using it already. It's great. So that makes sense. So the rub is that even if they fix Active Directory stuff, which I want to use, the Azure Active Directory, we're going to have to let it air out before we go down that road. We'll probably build a test server. If we get that going, we'll be fine. But I will never be able to demonstrate the on-prem Active Directory because we don't use that here. I'm a Mac shop, mostly Macs, a handful of Windows machines, and the Active Directory we use, because it works with Macs just fine, is the Azure online AD stuff. That makes sense? Hopefully I'm being... Yeah, so Opera Dead wants to know AD is a mess with FileMaker and he's looking forward to being fixed. Yeah, so am I. I want it fixed because a bunch of my engineers use it, but I refuse to use it. And my server guy hates the fact that I don't use it. In fact, Jacob's always whining at me, but he knows that it's kind of a hacky mess. And so if they've actually fixed it, which I believe they have, but I want to make sure that it doesn't create new problems. Right.
Yeah.
So that would be where I'm at.
If it's fixed, we'll probably make a stream on it, but that'll be at some indeterminate point in the future.
Yeah, Kyle says it does work and it might be fine for small files. The database I'm using has 13 files and been in production for 20 years. Yeah, so that's the rub with that. I mean, the one thing that Claris also added quite a few things, but they added this, oh, you can have 250 files running in your FileMaker server. And I'm like, really? I need to ask any of you, and I'm not picking on you, is anyone here have at least the previous maximum number of files you could host was 125 files? Are any of you running up against that 125 limit on a server? I'm just asking the question. I'm not being mean because they made it like this was like a deal, but I'm like, I mean, if you've got that many files on it, you probably have quite a few clients and you probably need a really big server. Yeah, Kyle says the most I've had is 35. I run 6. Yeah, I'm just finding out if there's someone who actually has it. Hey, Mr. Taylor, if you want to surface, let me know because we're getting to the point.
I'm
They're
present.
both here. They both need to
Oh,
do
you're
a
there.
video real fast. Real quick
Are you
question.
guys ready to do something?
Calvin has a working demo, yes. To talk
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pivot here. We're going to pivot. So I kind of hit on this pretty hard. So everyone's seen this. We're going to be updating this, but this is the true documentation and the full meal deal. Okay, there you go. And so, yeah, there you go. And I'm sorry about the hackiness of the drawings. We built this last night, realizing that when I realized that you could pass a message all the way to yourself, and when this thing is received, normally when you get a script or you run a get, you only get the script parameter or you get the script result. You never do both. This one does a double. It does both. So yeah, awesome. So I'm glad it's there. I think it's great. I just was a shock when I discovered it backwards by accident. I guess if I'd read all the technical documentation, it was B in the technical documentation, maybe. I don't know. Real quick. So Calvin has the free Claris Connect demo, right? Please, Claris Connect demo. Did I say that correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing, Calvin.
I'm going to share.
Yeah, you can share.
Okay.
And we're going to take whatever time you need on this, but I wanted this. I think this is the other big piece. Well, there's about 3 or 4 big pieces on here. The audit is a big piece for transactions, but I'm waiting for Kyle or someone to build a parsing tool for the JavaScript or for the JSON to make it really interesting. So walk us through, Calvin, what you did.
Yeah, so I went to Claris.com today. This happened today. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, pretty far down there, you get these ready to get started. I feel like these buttons should be at the top, but you can try FileMaker, get Claris Connect, or find a partner to help. So I selected Get Claris Connect. And make sure you select the right language. Here, let me see. How do you change the language? Anyway, if this were in English, it walks you through getting Claris Connect. And so I set up my Claris Connect, and the first thing I did was so now you can see it here, set up a couple flows for sending and receiving Twilio messages. So here I have my phone right here, and I have my FileMaker sending messages. So I'm going to say hi from the RCC FileMaker Training.tv.
Okay.
And I'll send that. It goes into my list, and in just a moment, we should see that pop up right here. So I got it on my lock screen. I'm going to open.
Cool.
And there it is.
Did you wire up a reply, or is it just one way right now?
There is a reply, but it's not showing up. So I'm going to say reply.
Okay.
And send that. Now, my demo, I didn't have quite enough time to get it to link up with
the reply
names, but it is replying. So if you go over here and see in the message table and go to the last record, we'll see the reply did.
Oh, so you are getting it. You just haven't coded the FileMaker yet. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we're going two directions.
In my opinion, we're both talking. In my opinion, all the hard work is done. That's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Just getting it to in FileMaker we've been doing that for 30 years. So yeah. Wiring it to the correct. Right.
Yeah. So super cool. So if we want to look through how this is set up first we'll show the send message and that's the part that's using the new feature.
What script step?
The new script step. Yeah. And this is everything this is the new script. This is the new script step. It's just 2 steps. We
trigger Claris Connect flow. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see if I can't. The new thing's trigger Claris Connect flow. So and the first thing that they instruct you to do is set a variable with a JSON as action script, and then you can put anything within that JSON object. So in this case, we're doing a message, which is our global field, and then 2, which is the phone number. And then the options in the trigger. So I'm going to just type in trigger is a URL that Claris Connect gives you. And then the JSON data, which Claris Connect kind of helps you set up that a little bit between your Claris Connect and whatever else you're going to do. You set up that JSON object and put in the JSON data. There's other options for the app ID, API key, or webhooks. And then target, I would recommend putting a target in here. For me, I'm just putting the target in result, global field.
Okay.
And so let's go ahead and delete those extra ones. So
where did you get the instructions from that? Like the instructions to do. So just let me just say something here real quick, and Margaret, make sure you're splitting our screen. The only reason we're demoing Claris Connect, let me help anyone at Claris who's in charge of anything, is because you finally have given it to your developers in a meaningful way where there's no barriers for them to play with it, right? And because of this, now this is the first time I've actually looked at it and been interested, right? So this is awesome. Please keep empowering your developers and encouraging them, even if it's just a single license free, to get them playing with it. So that way they get excited about it, because it's hard to get excited if you have to write a big check before you get excited, right? right? So yes, I know other people are gonna keep going. So Calvin, yeah, pop that open. I'm gonna look at questions. Keep going.
So here we are in Claris Connect, and for my Twilio demo, this little workspace, I have two flows, and you can kind of think of these as almost like a script. So the first one is this: a new message starts in Twilio, and I put in the selected which app I was going to use. And if you scroll down, you can see a bunch of the other options here. We've got Box, I think Dropbox is in here, Slack, a lot of different things. And then in the settings, where was it? Or under edit, then we configure this. And this goes with the Twilio settings. But then when we get to the FileMaker area, create record, we tell it what we want to do. So in this case, we're creating a record, but you can also tell it to call a script, a few other things. Here I tell it what layout to go to. So this is my messages layout. And then the Twilio gives us a JSON object that Claris Connect parses out. So these are actually what we see here. After we select the layout, it populates the fields on that layout. So let's go ahead and look at the layout. So here's my layout, and you'll see it's T74 messages Claris Connect, and only has 3 fields. Now, if you had more fields, you would have a longer list here, but I just have from, message, and to. And so I have the options to match this up, each of these items, with a part of the result from Twilio. So we got the body, the country, the state, and you can go through there and select any of these to put in other fields or this field. And then we saved it. And you do have to enable these things so they can be disabled and re-enabled. And once it's enabled, it's running. And then so that was the part where we're receiving a message from Twilio. So that was when we saw the message of the reply appear. And that doesn't use anything new, though those features worked the same way in Claris Connect the last time I demoed this, which was, I was realizing today, it was about 3 years ago. And
yeah, well, that was the last time you probably cared about it. Let me, I mean, everyone, what I just said about bringing this to the masses is a huge deal, right? And I just, it's like, you know, yeah. So anyway, yep. So can you do me a favor and take a look at the script and what you call the trigger? Alex on YouTube is saying, hey, is this a local file or is it running through a server? Can Connect run on the server side? Great
question. So Connect is running in the cloud wherever Claris has it. But this server, this host, and you do have to have this, your app, if it's talking to Claris Connect, it has to be pointing to server. It has Claris Connect has to point to server. Your file has to be hosted. So this is on one of our test servers. And when you select, let's go ahead and just select a new flow. And so when you select, you don't see an option to select Claris FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Pro. We've got Claris FileMaker Server, Claris FileMaker Cloud, or Claris Server. And there's an on-premise one, but I think you would have to have Claris Connect actually running.
Yeah, this will be the screenshot I show when you if there's ever an example on how to confuse your customer base. Yeah, let's fork the platform and confuse everyone. So yes, real quick.
Actually
go back to this.
Yeah, go back to where?
Just go back for a second. Yeah, back to the FileMaker side. So let's just be clear about this. So FileMaker, the file here is we're running it on a client. The script is running on the client, but the data, the FMP12 file is hosted on the FileMaker server, which is a requirement because the FileMaker server is going to be talking to Claris Connect directly. Yes?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be someplace where where Claris Connect can reach out to
Can
it,
talk
to it.
Can talk to server.
And you can't do that with something just sitting on your desktop.
Can Claris, can that script step, check the script step, see if that's compatible in PSOC or PSOS. PSOS was, I don't know what to call PSOS with CB, right? PSOS.
Yeah, so I think that, so you'll see it should be available anywhere.
Right tab. Right tab. Yeah. There we go. Now we're set. So hit perform. Yeah. So then try.
Yeah.
Well,
so
no, it's on server. That's it right there. It works right there. Yeah.
It's expected to work everywhere. It's essentially just an insert from URL wrapper, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
An insert from URL.
So the answer for Alex is that you can trigger that. You could trigger this on a SASE script. You could have a SASE that runs automatically. Remember, that's a server-side script that's on a schedule. PSOS is a server-side script that's triggered explicitly by a client, right? That's kind of what we were talking about before, but with the callback. But
yeah. So there's two different features here. I guess I should point that out. This one, send message through Claris Connect, doesn't require, you can run this from your local machine. It doesn't require server, but receiving a message from Twilio through Claris Connect would require the server. Okay,
so real quick for everyone on this, and I'm going to wave my hands on this a little bit. So for Margaret, so the issue, this is kind of a fundamental, people ask this question, but as a developer and you're in the beginning to intermediate stage somewhere, understand that FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Go are good at talking out at things, say a local FileMaker file, no server involved. They're good at pushing data out. They don't listen very well. To get them to listen, generally you have to have the database file, the FMP12 file, hosted on a FileMaker server, and that FileMaker server then has to be listening. It can be listening through the data API. It can listen now through Claris Connect. You could also use plugins to listen. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Christian Schmidt at Monkey Bread has specific calls in the Monkey Bread plugin that allows the plugin to listen on the client or on the server. So, but you have to have a tool that will allow you to something that's listening, right? Like, for example, when people put orders in for training with RCC for our training packages, you pay PayPal with a credit card or wherever you do that. PayPal sends actually a PHP push with XML data to my FileMaker server. My FileMaker server is listening for that data. That's how that works. So you really need FileMaker server or something to be listening to receive the data in, right? Receive the information in. Sending, receiving are really two different things at least in our world. So cool. Can it run a WebDirect? Please test. Yeah, we're not running WebDirect at the moment. We could try to turn it on and run it, but the script will work according to this. And what Margaret said, Margaret, can you, or not Margaret, Calvin, can you look at the scripts one more time for that trigger, the limitation over there?
Yeah, so WebDirect is definitely, it can work there.
Supports it.
Yeah, it should work anywhere an old insert from URL works. So I would expect it to work everywhere.
So that's from Arson.
Questions. That is from Arson on YouTube. We got two other questions. No, only one. Sorry. Why are all the Google choices grayed out?
I'm not sure. So we're looking at if we go to a new flow and scroll through, you'll see some of these are grayed out. And so for some reason they are. And it might be that we need to call something else first. So the Twilio options that we have, when I selected Twilio first in one of my flows, I had different options when I called FileMaker first. So if I select FileMaker and I'm just going to say, go through here and say continue and save. So this walks you through your setup. And this is a little old. This is still saying use insert from URL, but essentially you still copy this link and paste it into there. I'm going to save that. Now if I say new action, You'll see that a bunch of these are highlighted.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
They're
the
all
Google
on
options
now.
are all available. Yep. Okay.
So what it's saying
mean,
is that you can't start a flow with one of those.
Can I
utilities.
simply say something? Once again, I'm going to reemphasize this. The vast majority of consultancies, no one cared about Claris Connect. No one cared at all. Zero. Okay. And then suddenly Claris, because this is what was supposed to happen with FileMaker 19. We had betas all set up with Claris Connect. I remember Wim losing his mind about this. And I'm not talking, and we had it all set up the night before. The next morning, some certain person that's not at Claris anymore killed all the developer free accounts, so we couldn't demo it anymore, and we had to pay money to demo it. Talk about immediately pissing off the entire planet. And that's kind of, so we've actually come full circle now back to August or September of 2019 before COVID. We've come back to that point. Now we're trying to get the developers to re-engage with free stuff. And then if you use it in a practical application with a customer, they're going to have to buy it, right? Calvin, did they tell you how many calls you get to make before they consider you being a bad person?
No. So there should be
like a maximum.
Yeah. So monthly. So active flows, it's pretty much unlimited. So when you'll get your Claris Connect area, and then this options ellipsis will tell you. So I've got 500 pings for the month. 500 steps.
It probably updates once a month, right? I mean, so every time you're running this, you probably burned up one of those monthly steps, right? I'm assuming, yes.
Well, I'd run out 2 steps, because each one of these is 2 steps.
Okay, all right. So you could burn through the 500 pretty fast.
Yeah, especially if this is if you have a longer flow. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you're a serious developer. Yeah, they're going to probably want to adjust that for serious consultancies to let them do that a little bit.
I think 500 is pretty good for testing. No?
Yeah, for lightweight. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. If you were beating on this for a week seriously, then I guess maybe your customer would buy it at that point because there's value in it. But I think it's a great start. I don't know if that number's enough or not, but we'll figure it out. But it can't be too big because you don't want people abusing it. So,
right.
And I want Claris to make money on this. I'm not anti-Claris at all. I'm zero. I'm very pro-Claris. My goal is to not say no to people. And the way you say yes to people is you don't put artificial roadblocks in the road in front of them. So I think that this platform right now, its capabilities and growth and future potential has, in the last, say, 72 hours since they released FileMaker 23, we have a lot more interesting things now to talk about on LiveStream, right? Because this is something I have to go learn because I never cared. Now I care. A lot of you are going, yeah, this is cool. We want to play with this. Everyone's saying that.
I like the ease of the received Twilio text message. I've been hit with needing to listen to webhook calls from other services.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is good stuff. So tomorrow is going to be decidedly not a FileMaker 23 day. I don't know how much more Calvin has to do here if we want to wrap and land. Calvin, I know you threw this together in warp speed. So Calvin built this out. Now, it has a little bit of Claris Connect experience from 3 years ago, but you built this out, what, in an hour and a half or less?
Yeah, something like that. The most of the time that I spent was flailing, trying to get it done fast, and Jacob came in and looked at the errors I was getting and fixed and pointed me in the right direction.
I told you to slow down and read the messages. I remember that. I did the same thing. You get really in a hurry and you get in a panic, right? So all the things we do for a live TV show, right? David Angel says, in terms of referencing to Claris, he goes, snacks are free, the meals are not, right? So the peanuts and popcorn are free. If you want a steak or whatever vegans eat for steaks, some sort of vegetarian thing, whatever. Yes, that big meal is not free. You have to pay for that. Cool. I agree. I totally agree. I want to give Claris more money. I want to give them double the money I give them now. I want them to get all that money, but I want to get value for that. That's what I want. Take my money, please. Right? Yes. All right, Calvin, are you happy with this, where we're at the moment? Are we sufficiently good with this? Yeah, pretty cool. So this is, we've demonstrated basically 3 features from the 23 release. This is not all the stuff. So obviously, as we go through the upcoming weeks, etc., we're going to try to thread this stuff in. But we got Nick going, and then maybe we get Nick using 23, and he'll start playing with it too. That would be good, especially with PSOS with callback. I need an acronym for that, something cute and clever. PSOS with CB. I don't know what that is. So yeah, if I get help with that'd be great. All right, cool. Margaret, we got anything else at the moment?
I think we're good. So feel free to roll credits.
I will as soon as Calvin quits sharing his screen. I need him to stop sharing. There we go. Jacob Taylor, thanks for the help today. Jacob here has been behind the scenes. And then next week, Jacob, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, server install mayhem, right?
Yep.
It's going to be awesome. Everyone will learn. I'll learn every time they do server installs. Anytime I can get the server install to go without exploding on flames and fire, I'm a happy person. Not because it's difficult, just because I'm not a server guy. You have to have a legit command line server person, right? Cool. All right, everyone, have a good one. See you. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.